Hello traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com, September 20th, 2020. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the indices, all of which traded in a choppy range last week, closing below the 50-day moving average in the case of the S&P 500, while IWM and NYSE both traded above that key moving average. Expectation is for more weakness, though at least an attempt to reclaim key support would be good this week. As it didn't appear to be breaking apart, the bulls are still putting up a fight, while a not insignificant number of leaders like Tesla and KB Home, which both held their strong gains for the week, in addition to what we saw with Adobe and ServiceNow. That said, the FANG stocks took it on the chin last week, most of them moving lower, with the exception of Intel, Tesla, and Roku. Bond stock ratio is fading somewhat, but it is sort of neutral. Junk bonds and high yield corporate debt are also neutral to bullish, with a Dow Composite and the S&P 1500 trying to mark out a base. The XII ARCA Institutional Index was below its 50-day moving average at the close on Friday. The heat maps are improving modestly, with XLY-XLP ratio still rising and bullish. Strength in biotech, REITs, and real estate to finish off the week. International markets, the heat maps were improving somewhat as well, with Brazil, Mexico, Greece, Russia, South Korea, Japan, and the UK showing the most improvement. We'll look at some IBD 50 names on the list, in addition to Market Smith relative strength names in white, and stocks showing funds buying in green. We'll also look at some Dow Industrials to round out the watch list. Bukowski's showing 505 green with a CPI signal red since August the 18th at 16.7%, which is bearish, with 50 bearish patterns, 10 bullish patterns, and 365 patterns waiting for breakout this week. All things considered, we have 4 bullish indicators, 14 neutral indicators, and 2 bearish. That leaves us in a neutral, waiting for a base proposition for the week ahead. Bullish trend under pressure, basically. We have to wait for Monday and Tuesday's trading to get a sense of where gamma is at this point. 3,500 last week was resistance, and support remains at 3,200. Spiders closed just below the 50-day moving average. RSI continues to move lower, so respect the trend. Lower highs, potentially a lower low this week. We have some Fibonacci levels below, and major support in this volume by price zone down to about 310 to 312. In addition, volume did pick up on the pullback, so we had 3 distribution days last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Stochastics is now oversold. We're looking for that to bounce this week. While the weekly time frame shows that same major support down below, just shy of the 302 level. 3 weeks down, RSI remains above 50 on the weekly time frame, so there is a chance that we could bounce this week, though momentum has been slowing. You can see histogram has turned down. Have yet to cross over, so we'll look forward to a bounce, hopefully to start the week. We'll watch on Monday and Tuesday to see how gamma sets up for October OPEX, with current resistance at 3,500 and support at 3,200 on the S&P 500, 320 support on SPY. If we remove the weighting of these big cap tech stocks that faded last week, using the S&P 500 equal weight index, we can see that we held above the 50-day moving average, and buyers did step up at the end of the day. So there's a possibility that we could bounce, though still see some weakness in growth stocks, with the caveat that Tesla Battery Day headlines this week, with the late Tuesday news event a big deal for Tesla stock, and the EV industry as a whole. Chips didn't bounce much on Friday afternoon, but we did see strength last week in some of those names that we trade on a regular basis. So watch chips this week. That could help out a great deal. In addition, we did see Biotech's strength last week. I remember a couple of people trading. I think Robert was trading LABU, among other people in the trading room. That'll have an impact on the NASDAQ 100. There's some big cap tech names and big cap biotechs that could bounce this week as well. 3 weeks down from the highs. RSI is still above 50, and 3 weeks of distribution with MACD rotating lower, possibly with a test of the 20 period moving average on the weekly time frame before bouncing as a potential scenario. That said, with the weakness in the NASDAQ 100, we did see growth versus value tapering off. So the ratio in the upper panel is telling you to favor value in the short term. The lower panel is IVX, the value index. Notice it's holding the 20 period moving average a lot better than the growth index. So it's a possibility that value could outperform this week. I'd be looking at dividend paying stocks on the Dow Industrials, among others, which we'll cover shortly. I think the big surprise last week, for me anyway, was the strength in the small cap Russell 2000. This is a weekly time frame. We have pulled back a little bit, but the bounce last week off the 50 period on the weekly with RSI rising indicates that we could see some follow through. I know Mikey and a few other people in the trading room were taking some trades on IWM. We did see fairly large option sweeps and blocks and above average volume to end the week. If we remove the candles from the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange Composite, we could also see that 5200-day cross that followed through this past week. So there is a possibility this broader market index, broader participation, could continue to see higher highs and higher lows. As new highs did manage to outpace new lows on Friday, you can see price action starting to move a bit higher. We'd like to see some higher highs and higher lows on this index, and for the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline to turn back up this week. Price action is consolidating along this 12,750 level, and we do have the 130 moving average, half a year of data, turning up markedly. We are a bit extended from that area, but this base appears to be holding for now. That'll be something we'll be watching for this week. We also focused on NYMO quite a bit last week. We saw that improvement having an effect on the moving average, the black line turning upward. We do have a lower low and a lower high. However, NYMO managed to get above 19, almost 20 during Friday's session, tapering off a little bit with NYMO closing at minus 24.97 to end the day. On top of improving breadth, we also saw Vixx managing to give us a green signal by the end of the day on Friday. So if this starts to turn green again and start trending, there's a possibility we could see a bottom, and the readings that we saw late on Friday for tick cumulative on the 60-minute time frame could turn back up. We're still looking for those higher highs and higher lows, which have been absent over the last week or so, as we look for a low to hold or for this low and support to break and go down and test 3,200 on the S&P 500. Bottom line, the indices are very choppy, and the base, while forming, has a possibility of breaking this week. So we have to keep an eye on it Monday and Tuesday and see how gamma sets up for institutions going forward into October options expiration. The bond stock ratio also neutral to slightly bearish. If we can get this to turn back down, the ratio in the red line as well as the 65 period moving average, as long as those continue to move lower, that's bullish for equities, while we consolidate in the upper panel S&P weekly time frame, 3 weeks lower, but not red, only blue, telling us that this is a pause and not a sell-off at present. Of course, that all could change to start this week if we lose that base. Other things to consider, in addition to IWM outperforming, which is a risk-on indicator, in addition to what we saw with Biotech, another risk-on indicator, we have junk bonds and high-yield corporate debt. Whenever these are holding or moving higher, that's telling you that investors are not concerned about market sell-offs, and the fact that all three of these are moving higher or sideways to end the week tells us that investors and institutions are not that concerned with the market moving lower at the present time. We have IBB in green, IWM in red, and USO crude oil in blue. Crude oil did turn back up. We had a nice pop on Friday in addition to a higher close for the week. Those are all bullish indications for equity markets if we continue to see strength in this group. Compounding these three risk-on indicators, we also see the 10-year yield moving higher. We have PPO, the price percentage oscillator, is moving higher. That's bullish. And if we can get the 10-year yield to move back above 7, we could see a rally to the upside. That would be bullish for equities. As you've seen in the past, when the 10-year manages to rally, we do see higher prices in the indices. Forex pairs are also consolidating many of their gains, in this case the British pound US dollar. We did have the FTSE and the London Stock Exchange a little bit lower last week. That was because of the strength, for the most part, to start the week. We got rejected at the 21-day EMA on Friday. So if this starts to move lower, that would be bullish for equities traded on the UK exchanges. All the while, the US dollar remains in this descending wedge with the 50-day rejecting price action last week. We are seeing something of a rounding bottom. So if the US dollar starts to move higher, that should put pressure on commodities like gold and silver, which in the case of gold is remaining in this 8-week pennant pattern, consolidating along a volume by price band support resistance level around 1950, just above the 50-period moving average. So what happens to gold this week could have a big impact on the US dollar and vice versa. If the dollar starts moving higher, we could see a break of the 50-day. If the dollar starts to move a bit lower out of that base, expect to see gold moving higher. We also have to keep in mind that inflation is something that's probably going to pick up in the next couple of years. Many people are playing that inflation side of the gold trade, buying on these dips. So we'll have to watch what gold does this week to get a better sense of whether it's a trade or not for us. For now, it's just basing above the 50-day. Copper also showed us a nice breakout last week, a very long base. Now we're breaking out. If you look at the monthly time frame, you can see in the past when copper started to rally, like back in 2008, 3 or 4 months before this secular bull market started, we had copper rising and moving higher. Again in 2016, prior to the election, this started to move higher. This bullish indication is bullish for equities as well, as copper is a base metal used in construction, and construction-related names usually respond well as the economy, a forward-looking indicator when copper is moving higher. Looks like we could see a follow-through this week. Volume has picked up, and we're near the highs that we saw back in 2017. If you're looking for home builders, construction-related names, construction products, and home improvement names to move higher, you want to see copper continue this trend higher. Finally, we have West Texas Crude, Brent, both moved higher last week. This weekly time frame shows you a pretty big rally in crude oil. If we can get back above the $43 per barrel, $42.50 per barrel resistance level, we could see this trend continue, produce a higher low. This would be bullish for equities as well as it has a positive correlation to equities. The sector heat map has been improving as well. Less red a little bit more yellows and orange, with strength showing up in materials last week. Large cap and small cap biotechs. We did see some strength in transports, addition to technology, real estate, and REITs. So watch for continuation there. We're looking for more strength. We're also watching the international indices where we had Brazil and Mexico showing relative strength. Greece started to look a little better, as well as Russia, the UK, Japan, and a few other minor improvements in the UK as we look for more improvement this week. Also keep in mind the consumer discretionary to consumer staples ratio continues this rally higher like it did back in 2018, 2019, as well as what we're seeing now. This is a bullish turn. As long as this is rising, this is telling you to favor equities and to not be too concerned as institutions don't show any signs of positioning in a bearish fashion. They would start to pick up staples versus consumer discretionary in a big way, and this would turn down or flatten out before it gave you a signal to sell, like it did in late 2018 and a very quick turn in 2020 back in February when COVID-19 hit the airwaves. Finally, we have the sectors on the daily time frame. We'd like to see the 21-day and the 50-day moving averages rising up and to the right, and price action to be above the 21-day like we're seeing with transports, materials, industrials. So look for strength in sectors this week. IBD 50 for the week. We're looking for stocks that are above the 9 and 21-day. In some cases, stocks like ATVI are below. Looking for a move above the 9 and 21-day. RSI suggests that there's more upside. Many of these names saw above average volume on Friday. Relative strength, stochastics moving higher, MACD is about to cross. Adobe looking for the 50-day to hold, price action to turn up. RSI will turn up as a function of price, and stochastic will turn up as well. AMD looking for semiconductors to continue to move higher this week. Intel, Taiwan Semiconductor, LRCX, Marvell, and a few others did look like they were going to bounce last week. Maybe a follow through this week. Akamai looking for a move back above the 9 and 21-day, volume increasing, MACD's turning, stochastics oversold and turning. Alexion, many of you trading this last week, it bounced right off the 21-day, buyers stepped up, it closed in the upper half of its daily range, RSI is rising above 50, look for MACD to stay above its signal line, looking for a follow through this week. Alibaba looking for strength in Chinese stocks. If it holds the 21-day or tests the 50-day, it might be a nice setup. Stochastics oversold. Big Lots and other names in the retail space looking strong last week and then fading Thursday and Friday, like Capri Holdings, Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond, and other names in the group. Watch for Walmart strength on the TikTok deal mentioned, as well as Oracle. D.R. Horton, we traded this last week into Wednesday, took some profits off. Looking for this base to follow through. We got KB Homes with earnings and quarterly results after the bell on Tuesday. Digital Turbine, this is one that Mikey mentioned last week, had a good week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we flagged on Friday, mostly profit taking to go into the weekend. Looking for a flag or a little pullback perhaps for a follow through this week on APPS. Dollar General, the discount retailer is looking strong, looking for a follow through on this breakout this week. Volume increasing, MACD is above its signal line. FTNT, not really fond of stocks that are below the 9 and 21-day and 50-day, but this looks like it could rally this week. Horizon Therapeutics trying to break out this week. RSI is rising, suggesting there's more upside. Look for a follow-through. Volume increased on Friday. MACD's above its signal line. Nice looking base for price action to push off of. Watch for HCMP and other names in the group. Last week we had Humana and others in the healthcare space doing well, in addition to a lot of the large cap biotech stocks to finish the week. IIPR looking for a follow-through and a breakout. Lowe's and Home Depot looking for these tests of the 21-day and the 50-day to resolve to the upside. with home improvement names after all of these storms that have passed through the United States in the last few weeks to have an impact on their sales and earnings. As well as copper, we saw breaking out last week, which is telling you to watch these home improvement names, construction products, manufacturers, and builders for follow-through on the bullish trends. Marvell looking for semiconductors to outperform. Nice little base. Look for a breakout. Nvidia, another semi holding up fairly well above the 50-day. Watch for a turn higher this week if semiconductors outperform. Palo Alto Networks, CyberArk, and others. We're looking for security names, cybersecurity names to continue higher. PayPal, watching these wicks and potentially a reversal with payment processors looking like they could bounce this week. PennyMac Financial just continues along its bullish trend, looking for a follow-through. PetMed Express, a little bounce off of this base, looking for a push off of this level. 21-day will probably be resistance, along with the 50-day. RSI suggests we could see more upside, volume increasing, MACD's turning, stochastics oversold, and turning upward. Side play, looking for a follow-through. This one's new. Nice looking pattern, cup pattern, right side of the cup building, looking for a break above the 17 level. RSI suggests higher prices. Volume increasing, MACD's above its signal line, a little bit overbought, so maybe a flag before it breaks out. Stamps.com, price action below the 9 and 21 day is not a favorite setup. This does look pretty strong for the week. RSI will start moving if we can get a follow-through, volume increasing on Friday. Relative strength while the markets pull back. Stochastics is oversold. This one could get going. MACD turns and crosses over. We're above this volume by price support. I really like how this one looks going into the week. Viva Systems, basing, looking for a breakout above this base. Virtu Financial, holding the 9 and 21 day, looking for a bounce. And Workday, we're looking for the 50-day to hold, looking for a push higher. I know you guys were talking about this in the trading room on Thursday and Friday. Looking for a bounce and a follow-through. And finally, some names that showed up on the fund's buying list on IBD. We did see DraftKings with volume, so we didn't really need that information. We could see it in the volume. It was pretty obvious. The company putting together a lot of deals with the New York Giants as well as ESPN. Michael Jordan on the board. You know what I'm thinking about this one. It should see 60 pretty soon. I'd like to see a little flag first as it's a bit overbought. But you can see this when RSI creates muscle, looks like a bicep profile. That just means it's not overbought. It just means it's a very strong trend. So look for this to continue higher up into 60 maybe this week. Fastly, also getting some mention last week. We're looking for a follow-through, along with Fiverr International holding the trend, basing above the 21 day. GMAB basing recently, looking for a breakout. RSI suggests there's more upside. And GSX looking for a follow-through as well. Persona Corp, this is another one that looks like it's going to continue higher, building the right side of a cup, looking for this level at 42 to 44 to be tested in the short term. RSI is rising and following through on above average volume. Finally, there's Workhorse, which broke out of this base. We've been trading it since the 16s with a core position as well as some day trades as the stock dips. Frequently, we look for the dip to get bought and to do some day trades as well as holding on to this core as it continues to move higher. Remember, we have Tesla Battery Day on Tuesday. A lot of these electric vehicle stocks are most likely going to continue higher. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com. It's September the 20th, 2020. I'll send out a watch list later tonight around 11:30 on the East Coast, 8:30 on the West Coast, so be sure to look for that in your inbox. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.